Hi guys, welcome back to another sewing tutorial video. Today we'll be learning how to sew lap zippers. I always dreaded sewing the zippers when I was a beginner sewer because they always turned out to be gaping or the seam wasn't very straight. But today I'll be showing you my special technique on how to sew the perfect lap zipper. Today I'll be showing you how to lap zippers on two different ways. I'm using butterick 4919 to show a zipper lap to the side and butterick 6318 to show a zipper lap to the center. I hope you'll give this a try for yourself and let's get started. Today I'll be sewing a side lapped zipper into the center back of butterick 4919. I've sewn up the dress until the zipper needs to be sewn in, including sewing the center back seam below the zipper. The zipper that I'll be putting in is a matching 55cm zipper. Bring the seam that you want to sew the zipper in together. The first thing I'm going to do is to match the waist seam. On the wrong side of the fabric, make a marking at 1.5 centimeters. Bring the two sides together. Fold one of the raw edges on top of the other seam to see how they will align. Pin together. Pin the rest of the center back seam together. Try to match the neckline seam. On your sewing machine, change your stitch length setting to the long straight stitch. Sew from the bottom of the center back seam to the top at 1.5 centimeters. Take the dress over to the ironing board. Press the seam allowance split open. The waist seam of the zipper should be aligned. Turn your dress inside out. Grab a piece of cardboard or something firm that you can pin on top of. Pass it inside of the dress. Use this to help you pin one layer of the dress. Grab your zipper. The front of the zipper with the head must be placed down on the wrong side of the fabric. Place the head of the zipper just below the neckline of the dress. I'm placing the zipper on the right hand side of the center back seam. Pin the top of the zipper in place. Now I'm going to roll the zipper over the top of the seam. I'm making sure that the zipper teeth is under the right hand side of the seam. As I roll the zipper down, I'm pinning the zipper on top. Do this all the way down to the bottom. If you have an attachment on the machine, now's the time to remove it for the rest of the zipper. Change your thread to a contrasting color. Change the stitch length to a long straight stitch on the right hand position. Bring the zipper over to the machine. We're going to temporarily sew the zipper to the dress to help it align perfectly. This is called basting. Make sure that you remove the facing or lining before you sew. Sew on the wrong side of the fabric. Don't sew below the stopper of the zipper. This will help you know where the zipper ends. Grab your quick and pick. Carefully rip up about 5 centimeters off the top of the center back seam. This space should be just enough to let you move the zipper head around. Pull down the zipper. Change out the normal foot for a zipper foot. The zipper foot needs to be mounted on the right hand side. You must use a normal center straight stitch. Check that the needle is centered before sewing. Bring the zipper to the machine. We'll start sewing on the left hand side of the zipper. Make sure that the facing or lining is out of the way. Place the foot so that the teeth of the zipper should be just to the right of where you're sewing. The foot should be flat against the fabric. So for about 2.5 centimeters, turn the wheel to put the needle into the fabric. Lift the foot up as high as possible with your right hand. Use your left hand to carefully zip up the dress. Put the foot down. The zipper head should be clear of the foot. Keep sewing down the zipper. Try to sew as straight as possible by keeping an eye on the right hand side of the foot and how far it is from the center of the seam. Be careful to also check that you're not catching other fabric as you sew. When you reach the end of your basting, push the needle into the fabric, lift the foot and move the fabric anti-clockwise so you're now facing perpendicular to the seam. Carefully sew over the top of the zipper. Sew for a few stitches over the seam, put the needle into the fabric. Lift the foot and move the fabric clockwise so you're now parallel with the zipper again. On this side of the zipper, you need to sew just a few millimeters from the center back seam. Keep sewing towards the top of the dress. When you reach near the head of the zipper, push the needle into the fabric. Lift the foot and zip down the top of the dress so that the head is clear of the foot. Put the foot down. Keep sewing to the neckline seam. Now that we have a permanent seam in, we need to remove all the temporary stitches. For the center back seam, carefully rip down the seam with your quick unpick. Do this to the bottom. For the other basting, use your unpick to carefully cut the stitching on one side of the fabric. On the other side of the stitching, you should be able to pick the thread off and pull it off the fabric. Try out the zipper. It should run smoothly up and down the fabric and cover it nicely. Now we need to sort out the lining or facing at the back of the dress. For this example, this dress is self-lined, which means that I've used the main fabric as the lining. Bring the dress over to the ironing board. The facing needs to be folded over the top of the zipper so that the neckline is flat and the extra tape at the zipper is hidden. Press the neckline of the dress at the zipper. Take the raw edge of the lining and fold it up by 1.5 centimeters on the wrong side of the fabric. Do this for both sides of the lining that needs to be sewn to the zipper. Pin the neckline into place. Now the fold of the rest of the facing needs to be placed beside the seam that you made to sew the zipper in. Pin into place. Pin the entire facing to the dress. Grab a needle and matching thread. Thread the needle with a double strand and knot. I'm using a ladder stitch to sew the lining to the zipper. Push the needle into the fabric from the wrong side of the facing at the top of the zipper. Now make a stitch into the zipper tape just beside the seam for the zipper. The needle needs to enter the fabric next to the last stitch and make a stitch length of about 0.5 centimeter. Check on the right hand side of the zipper that you can't see the needle. Pull the needle through to make the stitch. Make the next stitch on the fold of the lining. Enter the fabric across from the last stitch and make a stitch length of about 0.5 centimeter. Pull through. Keep repeating this pattern to sew all of the lining to the zipper. At the end of the lining, here's how to knot off. Make a small stitch, but don't pull all the way through. Leave a loop. Pass the needle through the loop 3 times. Pull the thread and a knot will form at the base. Repeat once, then cut off the thread. The zipper is all done. It looks really even and flat, and the waist seam is perfectly aligned. Another way that you can sew a lapped zipper is to sew the zipper straight into the middle. This is an easier version and is suitable for beginners. I've sewn up butterick 6318 up until the zipper needs to be sewn into the center back seam. Just like with the previous dress, make a marking at the waist seam at 1.5 centimeters and use it to fold back the fabric and match the seam. pin the entire centre back seam. Change your stitch length to a long straight stitch and sew up the centre back seam at 1.5 centimeters. Use your iron to press the seam allowance flat. Turn the dress the wrong way out. Place a piece of cardboard in the dress under the seam. Grab your zipper. This time I'm going to place the zipper so that the seam is directly under the center of the zipper teeth. Pin the head of the zipper under the neckline. Now roll the zipper over the seam so it's exactly in the center and pin. You can go ahead and baste the zipper on both sides. Make sure that you're using a long stitch length and contrasting thread. Check the outside of the dress to make sure that the seam looks flat and neat. Rip open about 5 centimeters from the top of the seam, then pull down the zipper head to this point. On to sewing the zipper. Change to the zipper foot. Use a normal straight stitch with your matching thread. Place the zipper teeth to the right of the foot. Start sewing from the neckline. For this example, I've lined up the center back seam with the side of the zipper foot to help me make a straight seam. Sew up to the head of the zipper. Push the needle into the fabric, lift the zipper foot as high as possible while you zip up the dress. Once the zipper head is clear, you can put down the foot and keep sewing. Sew to the bottom of the zipper. Push the needle into the fabric and turn the dress so that you can directly sew on top of the zipper. This time, sew the same distance to the other side of the seam. Push the needle into the fabric and turn the dress so you can sew from the bottom of the zipper up. Sew up to the top of the zipper. Push the needle into the fabric and pull down the zipper head past the foot. Finish sewing at the neckline of the dress. This dress has facing at the neckline, which we need to sew to the zipper. Fold up 1.5 centimeters of the raw edge of the facing on the wrong side. Do this for both sides of the facing. Fold the facing on top of the zipper and press the neckline seam. Place the fold of the facing so it's beside the seam for the zipper. With a needle and thread, use a ladder stitch to sew the facing onto the zipper tape. As you sew, make sure that you aren't piercing the right side of the dress. And we're all done. This is an easy method to make a nice even zipper. Today we learned an easy and reliable technique for sewing lap zippers. I no longer have the problem of gaping seams or a mismatched waist seam. I hope you'll give this technique a try for yourself. Let me know if it works for you. Please like and subscribe if you found this video useful. Thanks for watching!